Hi guys, welcome to another edition of the Rangman Show. This is a very special edition. As you know, my best friend Dev Tyagi is back, and it's only for him that we are doing this edition where he's the host, he's the guest, he's everything, and I'm just there in the screen. Now, it's interesting that I say that because today we are honoring a legend called as Kimi Raikkonen, who just recently retired. I think we become legendary. We're just honoring legends. 2 days back, we honored The Undertaker, the greatest ever legend in WWE. And now possibly for you, the greatest legend in F1, Kimi Raikkonen. So before you say anything, I want to ask you two questions, two very specific questions. So I think there are two words that define someone that you look up to. One is called as passion. And because of passion, there's another P word called as purpose. So my question to you is, when you look up to a person, in your case, Kimi Raikkonen, why do you look up to him? That's your passion. And second is, in terms of purpose, what are the values that you imbibe from him that you use in your everyday life? And then we'll get into speaking about the legend.
Right. First of all, thank you, Pranay, for having me on the show and for making
Sure, but
thank you. It's very, very kind of you. So,
just be a little louder, huh, Dave? You don't have headphones, just be louder.
I've always looked up to Kimi Raikkonen out of passion for sure. But when you follow Kimi Raikkonen and his likes passionately, you don't really do that out of a compulsion because, you know, he's like a cool racer personality. He was, he is, and he will be one of a kind. So the passion was a bit understated also. You don't have to always rub your victories and your love for somebody on the other's face. And the second question was that what qualities do I?
Yeah, because of the passion, you get a purpose.
The purpose was always to be. So it won't be really wrong or boastful of me to actually be saying the truth that I have lived my life vicariously through his antics, because I'm also a bit of a no nonsense, non drama kind of a person. So, and I think during adversity, Kimi Raikkonen always found the best of himself. And that's what always happened with me. But am I the Iceman? Not at all. Um, does not mean that I was born in Finland, so I would have become the Iceman, or I take a bath with a bucket of ice. Haven't reached that tenacity yet. But I've never really fumbled, you know, I don't lose my shit in pressure. So that's why I could identify with Kimi. But there is a one word which my mother uses a lot. It's a Shuddh Hindi word, which I will translate to for our English speakers. Sthit Pragya. So very content and yet very detached and not trying to please everybody. So when you combine all these three words, you get the essence of the enigma that Kimi Raikkonen is. Enigma because in a world of unoriginal people where PR regimented talks dominate sports people's life, he was an uncanny original, the likes of which we're never going to see again.
So Dave, your liking for Kimi is so huge, so mammoth that the young Dev Tyagi in Dev's life, his pet name is also Kimi. Is that not?
Yeah, I named him after Kimi, yeah. And we have a bit of an intrusion. That's not Kimi, by the way. So, so I named him.
That isn't Kimi Katkar either, guys.
Yeah. For that, I would have had to have Tarzan jeans, which I'm conveniently hiding under this black T-shirt, the frame. So I named him after him, and not just that. So to any CIA or Mossad wanting to hack into my email ID, it's very easy. All my passwords are Kimi Raikkonen My keychains are Kimi Raikkonen, and what else? I mean, I think the Netflix login in a house is Kimi Raikkonen. That's the password, so it's pretty easy. But here's a word to the Mossad: you're not gonna get information on where can you buy cheapest oranges in Tel Aviv if you hack into my ID. So don't.
Let me put you in a spot, Dave. So I've known you for the last 15 years or so, in terms of being my best buddy. I know you like three people that, I mean, I've seen your passion like unparalleled for these three people. One is obviously Kimi Raikkonen, who we are discussing today. Second is Rahul, the world Robert. And third is Tom Hanks. So if you were to rank the three in terms of your passion for these gentlemen, what's the ranking going to be?
So Tom Hanks and Rahul Dravid are people who I actually idolize. Like I really look up to Rahul Dravid as being the perfect. There's no word called perfect, as the ideal gentleman.
Hey, we've
Tom
lost your
Hanks.
volume.
Okay, I've always looked up to Rahul Dravid and Tom Hanks as being embodiments of what it means by a perfect gentleman. I've never idolized Kimi Raikkonen. I'll tell you why. Because he was very relatable. Because I mean, I have all the respect and affection for Kimi Raikkonen, but he's not my role model. Is it because of his achievements that he's not my, rather the lack of it? No, there's nothing like that. He's a huge achiever in Formula One, but he is so original and relatable as a person. Of course, both of us being Librans, so probably
Wow,
I
I didn't
could.
know this. His birthday is
Yeah,
also in September.
it's on October 17th,
October.
but he's a Libran. Mine is 27th September, but the year of my birth is 1865. So yeah, before India became independent.
I'm glad you didn't say 1658.
Who was born there? Humayun? Or whom are you talking to? I don't know. So, so Kimi actually, Pranay, brings to life an everyday persona. While to be Dravid, you have to be a bit of a monk, you know. Tom Hanks, exemplarily simple and extraordinarily talented. So these are virtues I would want to imbibe. But Raikkonen was just an everyday hero, a simple guy who, when he could have decided to be a complex character, despite achieving so much and all that, he decided to be simple. So that was more relatable, and because I'm a simple man myself. Although my only two achievements are owning a
One is
car.
being friends with me, and second is
My first achievement is to be friends with you, but I've unfriended you on Facebook. That's the respect I give to you. And my second achievement is that I have a phone cover which says Kimi Iceman. So that's my second achievement in life. So yes, because it's
right.
Kimi, so it's cool to be lighthearted because that's how he took everything.
Can we have the Kimi portrait that you have behind you or somewhere? Or can
Yeah.
you just
So
hold
guys,
it for the viewers?
I just got this done recently.
Super beautiful.
And he's signaling a goodbye. So Pranay, you may want to use this as a clip to the YouTube video when it comes out.
Yeah,
Instead
we
of
definitely
my
try.
expressions where sometimes it seems I'm devoid of some rasgullas or gulab jamuns.
Yeah, we can definitely use that. Or we can use the illustration also that we plan to put as the
Yeah.
screenshot.
Yeah.
So, Dave, I was just intrigued with the tattoo on his arm. What does that say? Because when I was looking at the portrait, the picture, there's a tattoo that I can see. Yeah.
This is the Iceman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the theory is that so there can be multiple theories as to why he was called or why the Iceman nickname stuck by him. First could be that he was born in the Arctic Laplands, Finland, one of the coolest and coldest countries, where you can see the northern lights. That's not the reason, though. Perhaps um, Ron Dennis, a great of Formula One, one of the most exemplary leaders that we've ever had in this great sport, birthed the nickname for Kimi, and it stuck by him. And he called him the Iceman because he was very phlegmatic, unemotive, like the kind of person that you admire in real life. From the little I've understood of you in the last 15 years, you like people whose work does the talking, not their own tongue.
Yeah.
So Kimi was that. Kimi was he wasn't like a workhorse, but he was utility, work plus utility. You know, economizing work, smart way of doing things. Gadha mazuri, jise hum kehte hain, he would never do that. And I think the nickname came into a larger prominence after his exploits at Japan with McLaren at Suzuka, one of the greatest racetracks, one of the last remaining hardcore racetracks in Formula One. He started from 17th and he won the Grand Prix.
Wow.
So there are 20 cars and started from 17th and finished first. And then the commentators said that he's known as the Iceman, but today he might want to express himself a bit. And he just did, yeah, I mean, I won.
Which obviously he did.
He did. And he overtook a Renault, which was, I won't say on par, slightly ahead, personally speaking, for me, when it compares to the McLaren pace. And over these years, he stood up to some amazing drivers, the likes of which include Michael Schumacher, Fernando Alonso, another legend of the sport. Not that Michael Schumacher isn't, he's an icon, of course. Everybody knows his name. If they don't know Raikkonen's name, everybody knows Schumacher's name. So Kimi was fearless, fast, cold, and ruthless. But the ruthlessness never carried a stain of, not Dale, stain of anger or indifference. Um, that was the essence of Kimi. He just wanted to go fast every time he sat behind the car. This is what I'm talking about, his earlier years, without having much technical know-how of how to operate a Formula One car, what are the technicalities involved in the sport. But later on, as he progressed, he became one of the most wisest and experienced drivers, of course. As he leaves the sport, he's going to leave as the most experienced racer ever in Formula One history. And
Wow.
this is a 7-decade sport. So basically, 1/3 of all Formula One races, Kimi Raikkonen has been a part of it. I think that's
Wow.
exemplary.
So Dave, tell me, your liking towards the sport, that's F1, happened because of Kimi Raikkonen? Or
No, it happened because of Mika Hakkinen. So
okay.
I distinctly remember in 1998 or 1999, either of these years, I was in my uncle's house. He's a flamboyant personality, and he was always a Hakkinen fan. And at that point in time, Kimi Raikkonen hadn't yet arrived in the sport. So I was always following Hakkinen because I've always had a liking personally in life to follow the second best. I don't honestly, I have all the respect for those who are the best, of course. That's the reason why they're the best, because they are the best. But I like the people who stand up to shackle the boundaries, break foundations and leap ahead. So Hakkinen stood up to Schumacher, the great Schumacher. Hakkinen, of course, is Raikkonen's compatriot. He would also, in his later years, play a great role in getting Kimi's word out there, as did Michael Schumacher. So both these great people had a huge respect for such a young guy, which shows their greatness. He's a double world champion, Mika Hakkinen.
Wow.
So the first time I heard this name, Hakkinen, was in my uncle's house. But and then he was the one person in my family who would follow Formula One, because hum log to garib log, we were just happy with cricket. Sachin Lara, Sachin Lara, Sachin Lara, Lara on my case. I'm not an international guys. But coming back to the point, when we were in our advertising years, Pranay, 2006-7 season,
Dave,
that's the
we've
time
lost
when.
your volume again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah. So when we were in our advertising here.
When we were in our advertising years, 2006-7 season, that's the time Kimi Raikkonen had already become a hot commodity. In
Right.
2007, his stocks would rise even further. How? Because he won the World Championship that year. And by winning the World Championship, he did something majestic, which even the likes of Schumacher couldn't do. And what is that? That is winning the World Championship in his first year with Ferrari.
Wow.
So incredible was his achievement that not only he won by the slightest of margins by 1 point, uh, but to this day he remains the last Formula One world champion for Ferrari. So the last man to bring glory for Ferrari is Kimi Matthias Raikkonen. And I think that's the only time when he came on the podium, and in the aftermath, he smiled the most in his career. Otherwise, his biggest smile is what I'm going to imitate now. That's
Okay,
his biggest
guys.
smile.
Yeah, it's just smile. Dave, in your article, I was going through, I was giving you brilliant pieces of work. How many have you written? I think I've got 4, so I'm sure you've done more.
I've done 6 so far. 2 are
6
coming
so
up.
far. Yeah. So you've written in one of your pieces that he had only one world title despite 21 career wins. So what do you mean by that? Because for me as a layman, I want to understand the sport better. So, and you mentioned about 103 podium finishes and 46 fastest lap times. So can you just throw some light on that?
So let's start with the World Championship. So during his McLaren years, twice he came close to winning the World Championship, losing it to the likes of Schumacher and Fernando Alonso.
Sorry, when you say world championship, it means what exactly?
It means the
World
World
title.
Cup.
Okay.
World Cup.
So
It's like being the semi-finalist and not being the finalist in that order.
So in the sense that the number of races you have annually, whoever wins the most is the world champion. Is it like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Viewers, pardon me because I'm also learning about the sport from this gentleman here.
And viewers, this is a person who excels not only in content on cricket, football, hockey, WWE. The last sport he is not written about is basically a sport which hasn't been invented. And I hope that Chupan Chupai does not become a world championship one day. He'll write on that also. No, but it's incredible. So coming to the world championship bit, Kimi's so Kimi Raikkonen presides over a legacy, as well as full of the fragrance of a rose. The fragrance of rose comes from the fact that he arose as the knight of Ferrari, the 2007 World Championship. Why thorns? Because sometimes he's been stymied by undependable cars or weak or frail machines. The mechanical faults in the cars or not having enough aerodynamic performance, which never enabled him to extract the best out of himself. Even then, this guy pushed. For example, in one of the Grand Prix in Monaco, when he was driving for McLaren, Monaco is a racetrack where overtaking
in France,
is
right? France, right?
Monaco, no, it's in the Principality of Monte Carlo. It's very close to France. It's that region only. It's a separate region, but you're right. It's very close to France. So in a McLaren, so in a sport where performance can be measured to a thousandth of a second, how can you become great? It's by creating barriers in terms of margins. So he outperformed Alonso in a Renault whilst driving a McLaren by half a second, which is huge in terms of Formula One lingo. And he took pole position and he was extraordinarily fast whilst having a car which was right on the money. But then there were also seasons where the car wasn't as quick, the McLaren years. The legend of the Iceman was born in McLaren, but it was cemented in Formula One Ferrari drives. So that's what it is. So why one world championship? Your answer is simply down to the fact that he was often paired with not the best of machines. But I would also direct one criticism on Kimi. There were also occasions where he just couldn't do much if the car did not suit his driving style. And the greatest example of that is the 2014 season at Ferrari, where he was paired with Fernando Alonso, another titan of the sport. And I actually call him titan of the sport, a bigger achiever than Raikkonen, not in terms of podiums, but in terms of world championships. His being 2 to Kimi's 1. Alonso is a guy who can extract the car to its finest potential. He can push it to another level. Raikkonen couldn't do it, specifically because in 2014, the front end of the car would not suit his driving style. And you need the front and the rear to be in perfect balance, harmony. Alonso, whilst having the same car, was able to do much better, so much so that he managed 161 points that year to Raikkonen's 55. But even then, having a car which never suited his style, Kimi Raikkonen set the fastest lap at Monaco that year
Right.
and he came fourth at Spa, which is one of the most daunting yet serene venues in all of F1's calendar. So that was Kimi Raikkonen for you. And one more fact about the 2014 season is, which gives us an inlet into his mental side of things. He was asked by Clarkson um, that can Ferrari bounce back in 2015? He said yes, and he was just in 2014 yet. And Ferrari did bounce back. They did not win the world championship, but he got himself 3 podiums the next year, having gone podium less for the entire year in 2014. So that was Kimi Raikkonen. He was so self-confident.
So Dave, tell me, so you were talking about the machine and the driver. Does the car make the driver, or does the driver make the car in terms of
Nowadays,
getting the best performance going?
have you heard of the guy called Ayrton Senna? Senna, the name? Have you heard?
The
Okay,
only
so
Senna
Senna
I
was
know is South Africa, England, New Zealand, and Australia.
okay. There was another Senna who came from Brazil, but lives in the hearts of millions across the world. He's considered to be the Muhammad Ali of Formula One.
Right.
Like, they can be bigger boxers, pugilists, but there can only be one Ali. So Ayrton Senna had famously said that what I love most about Formula One was pure racing, pure driving. Just the purity of competition. In those days, Formula One was more dependent on the driver's skills, less of the technicalities of the car. I'm not saying today it is not. Of course it is. We see the likes of Lewis Hamilton with 7 world championships. Many of his critics say that that is largely due to him having a fast car. Well, that's also true because he's always had the fastest car. But what would he do if the car was quick but his skills weren't up for it? So you have to always back it up with performance. And Hamilton has taken the sport to an exemplary level. But have to technically answer your question, rather to answer it in a straightforward way, Formula One is no more about being soul-heartedly driven by a driver's talent. Okay, you have the likes of Fernando Alonso, and I would give a very small example at the recent Hungarian Grand Prix. So there's a race which happens in Hungary, and I love the name of the track. It's called Hungaroring. It's almost like the drivers are roaring for success. Alonso in an Alpine was able to stop Hamilton in a Mercedes for 10 back to back laps. So Alonso was ahead, Hamilton was behind. He just did not let Hamilton breach past his defenses. That comes down to driver skill. Why he was able to do that is because Alpine have a good car, but not a great car, not the likes of which Verstappen and Hamilton are contending with. So today, I would say it's 55 or 60 is to 40 or 55 is to 45. 55 is the car, 45 is the driver.
So Dave, in Kimi's 20-year career, you had mentioned in one of it. Sorry?
19 seasons.
19 seasons. Okay. So
That's
for 2 seasons, he was out. So who were you supporting then?
So he took a sabbatical, a break in 2010 and 11. But before I answer that question, I would want to recollect the incredible interview he gave. So it's like a press conference. Outside a press box, he's standing. And the typical Kimi modus operandi was wear the glasses, like Marco used to wear the glasses on the hat. And people are emotional. They are not crying, but they're emotional, and they're stunned that Raikkonen, last world champion of Ferrari, is leaving. And Kimi says, I mean, it's not that I'm dying, I'm just leaving the sport. So that personified Raikkonen. So, but in the 2 years that he was away, I was
also want to understand why was he away. Can we dissect that too, if you have an answer there?
There are many reasons. And this is the exact line he used then. And then he also said it makes no sense to talk about those reasons now, but there was a lot of politics at Ferrari. They wanted to get in Alonso. So 2007, he won them the title. 2008, the car was shit. 2009, the car was slightly better than shit. And 2009, he marked a brilliant win at So Pranay, he was nicknamed also the King of Spa. Spa is the name of the track in Belgium. He was called the King of Spa because he won a fifth of his Grand Prix victories there, 4 race wins at Spa.
Learned
Not
something
not
new
the
today,
just
Deep. I just thought that's in a
yeah
resort, but today you actually
yeah
enlightened me, but that's in Belgium too.
yeah. So Spa-Francorchamps, it's one of the oldest tracks in Formula One history, has featured since 1950, the inaugural season. So they wanted to bring in Alonso at Ferrari, and Massa was always there. Massa is also a Formula One hero, but not a legend. He's not considered a legend. So they wanted somebody to play second fiddle to Alonso. And when Kimi was there, Kimi and the lack of inflatedness in his personality always made Ferrari a level playing field. Like he would not want to be considered that, okay, I'm the main guy. I want to stand my authority. His performances would speak. Then came Alonso, whose personality is a little different, more aggressive, more dominant. But what did Alonso do? Was he able to win a world championship? He wasn't. So during 2000, so from 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, he got half a decade to win a world championship. He wasn't able to. But even then, Fernando Alonso ensured that the prancing horse, which is the name of Ferrari, would mount a severe challenge to the Red Bull of Vettel. So this was the Sebastian Vettel era, where when India used to also host a Grand Prix, the same venue which is now used for probably shooting Karan Johar movies, or maybe not. And one day you could actually see Ranveer Singh doing a better moonwalk than Michael Jackson, but that's also due to the interplay of
It's amazing how you
technology.
have to get Ranveer Singh in every podcast we do, Dave, in some capacity.
He's my actual role model. So if I've got a tattoo of his on my belly, and in this case, my belly is my butt. So yeah, and it's not called Salman Butt, by the way. So this is me worsening your Sunday with these lame jokes. So Alonso came to Ferrari and Raikkonen was out. But who was I supporting? I was supporting Ferrari because I'd become a firm Ferrari fan in the Raikkonen years. And I really respect Alonso for all he achieved in his Ferrari years because there was an energy, there was an emotion about Fernando Alonso. And he put such a staunch challenge. He won the first race upon his arrival at Ferrari, which was the 2010 Bahrain Grand Prix. And he won it with grand style. But even in those days, I would have thought would linger in my mind that, okay, what's going to happen to Kimi? What might he have done had he been in Alonso's place? But for 2 years, he went to do NASCAR and World Rallying Championship, and he looked very good looking in those days. He's a good looking guy, and he grew his hair longer, and he did a bit of rallying, lost to school. Um, there was one occasion, I think, in Sweden, in the Rally of Sweden, where his car somersaulted 2 3 times, hit a tree, and he just came out and he was cool about it. He wasn't even flustered a bit.
Wow.
So that was Kimi.
So Dave, in his media interactions, I've heard that whenever media asked him a question, his reply was also a question. Is that true?
That's true, Pranay. Because the media, and so he's not the biggest fan of media, I can tell you that.
Much
I'll
like
give you a small
us.
example. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Because so that's the thing, that none of us are crowd pleasers. We don't play to a gallery. A lot of sportsmen do that, they play to the gallery. They don't even mean to support a cause. And I'm being very harsh in this. It's exactly for emotional brand equity that they do it. They want to rally behind some cause. So Kimi will not do anything like that until unless he believes in it. He never took the knee. The greatest Kimi Raikkonen line when asked that what's your message to end racism? His answer was end racism.
But
So many
that's
drivers took.
actually so right. Now, why do you have to take a stance, or why do you have to come up with fancy terms? I mean, it just needs to be inbuilt in you to have that sentiment to end something which is a vice.
No, so absolutely. And if I might just digress for a minute. So black people have faced needless ire for generations and generations.
Yeah.
There's no denying the fact. There is widespread racism today. In some parts of the world, it's the lines are not even as blurred as what we find in our part of the world. So they have gone through a lot. But those who don't want to take a knee, why do you want to portray them as anti-heroes? Pranay,
Yeah.
you could actually be silently contributing to a charitable act without wearing a t-shirt, or without actually wanting your name to be on it. Like, for example, most of the benches in the Nana Nani parks in Bombay have the name of the person who contributed towards forming that bench.
True.
You want your name out there. Just do it silently, na? That's also a way. But to each his own. Those who took the knee orchestrated an even louder cause, contributed even more loudly, and rightly so. They have full right to do it. But those who didn't does not mean that they believe in racism or they want racism to continue.
Very true.
Was that?
And there's another point I would like to say, that racism is not only something where you are biased against the black people. Racism is biased against any skin color. So that's something that people should understand, because it's not only about the black people getting suppressed. Any person who's getting suppressed because of his skin color or because of any interaction you have with that person where you're trying to put that person down as racist. I think people need to understand that better.
Well said there, Pran. Well said that. Really, I commend you for saying that. Genuinely. There is one thing I want to point out, and I want to offer constructive criticism to the own country in which I belong. So in our, especially with the youth.
I also don't belong to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, you don't. I remember. Oh, you don't belong to South Africa as yet?
No. So you can say we belong.
You were born in Joburg, the Jammuburg. No. Okay. You're born in Delhi. Delhi boy, Delhi. And very non-Delhi Delhi guy in Bombay. So in our country, we immediately look down upon those people, especially the youngsters who are from the big universities, whose grammar is not right. And we keep correcting their grammar. So Kimi Raikkonen's grammar has never been perfect. He's a Finnish driver from Europe, which is not, which doesn't have English as a native language. But he's never been, such a thing would never happen in international press. But things would happen with Indian bloggers, writers, our own brothers, that they want to teach the person. There's always a subtler way of going about things. There's a subtler way of not insulting somebody who ends up saying subtle, mispronouncing the word. So this is something I don't understand. But coming to your question originally, from which we digress, thanks to me.
Dave, before we go there, I just want to say one thing. For any sports person, his performance is his only language that should matter.
Wow, what a line, man.
Yeah, brilliant. Because otherwise, I mean, who are we judging, and who are we to judge anyone on their language speaking skills? Because if the person has played well, then that's the language he knows or she knows.
Yeah. That's true. So Kimi's, I would say, disdain for media stemmed from the fact that he was always asked the most rhetorical questions, like on his comeback with the Lotus Formula One team, powered by the Renault engine in 2012, he came back. He was asked that, do you still have the hunger to race in Formula One? So he just said, why am I here then? Like, why did I? And then he was, so it's something which has happened over the years with him. And then, people.
Oh, what an excellent answer, man. I mean, it's like, I don't know what to say, man. I'm just like, wow. I just have this 3-letter word, wow.
Thank you. And see, it's a compliment to Kimi, but I'm accepting thanks. So Kimi, I'll pass this thanks to you. To see.
For me, whatever I know about Kimi is through you, man. So it's a compliment to both of you.
Right. So 2012, he won the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which was another record which Schumacher didn't achieve. It's always branded like that Schumacher couldn't do it. So which is winning a Grand Prix in the year of your return to Formula One. So Schumacher had quit, and then he came back to Mercedes, and then he went winless. But it's okay. I mean, he did a 7-time world champion. So when Kimi was being instructed, and that's cementing the Iceman legend even more. Almost now 10 years back, the story is 10 years back. I was watching this race with a few friends, and they were having beer and they were out already. So Kimi took the lead of the race. He inherited the lead because Hamilton's engine blew out, technical malfunction. He took the lead, and in the final closing stages, the team, so they have this radio, Pranay, where
yeah,
the team
yeah,
they say that kitne laps bache hain, who's behind you.
yeah,
So they
yeah.
said, okay, Alon, 5 seconds behind you. He just said, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. So this line sold millions of T-shirts.
Wow.
So the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of 2012 is called the Leave Me Alone Grand Prix. It became
Wow.
synonymous with Kimi ranting. And he wasn't being rude. So that's the thing. He
Yeah,
wants you
that's
to
him.
actually, for his first Grand Prix, I think for his first win, either among the two, he arrived just 30 minutes before participating in the race. He arrived at the venue 30 minutes before he started the race. So that's the guy he was. He would sleep in between races when it would be raining. I mean, he would just sleep. So everybody looking, where's Kimi? He's sleeping. So in a way, he was a bit like Sarang in our batch.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was a bit. He was yeah. Some qualities were like that, and the others were mesmerizing. I mean, and I want to specifically using your platform, our platform, um, point out two great things about Raikkonen. Two great things which will always stay with me. Whilst I really enjoyed his World Championship year 2007 and his comeback with Lotus, the two great memories for me, which will stay with me like Brian Lara's 400 not out. One of them is the 2018 USA Grand Prix win. He won after having gone winless for 113 races. So it was a not such a great record to hold. But when he actually won the race in America, not the easiest of race tracks, especially for him to master, in which he beat Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, when the team said, Grande Kimi, Grande Kimi, well done, my friend. He said, fucking finally, thank you. That was his response. And he snatched the lead from Lewis Hamilton whilst doing that, because Hamilton was the pole sitter, Raikkonen was on P2, and in the rundown to the first corner, which was a sharp left-hander, he snatched the lead, and then he would control the proceedings of the race brilliantly. So that moment will always stay with me, specifically because I never thought I would get to see the winning moment. I was in Salzburg in Austria. It's
Wow.
the only ever occasion where I watched a Formula One Grand Prix from Austria on the TV, of course. And I returned back to the hotel room. I just put the TV on. And I don't know who set the TV on the sports channel. The last two laps were on. And I'm seeing Raikkonen ahead of Hamilton. What the hell is even happening? And then Raikkonen won the race. That was one. But the greatest Kimi Raikkonen memory is when he set the record for the fastest ever lap in the history of Formula One in 2018, a few races before the US Grand Prix the same year. So this happened at Monza. It's a city. It's the homeland of Tifosi. Tifosi is a term given to the Italian fans, and they measure in millions, right? Because Ferrari, everybody, as Sebastian Vettel once said, even if you're not a Ferrari fan, you're a Ferrari fan. So they were desperately craving for a Monza win. And in the qualifying, which is the precursor to the Grand Prix, Pranay, all the eyes were on Hamilton and Vettel because these two guys were leading the charge. Raikkonen, not so much. They set their lap times, and Kimi Raikkonen came and blazed a lap at 1:19.119, the
Wow.
fastest ever lap time recorded in the history of the sport.
Wow.
By doing so, he broke the record held previously by, I'm forgetting his name. I'm really going old. Um, okay, his former McLaren teammate from Colombia. Yeah,
I wish I could help you there.
Montoya. He broke Montoya's record. And then Kimi held that record for 1.5 years before Hamilton in a much faster Mercedes broke it. But the greatest thing about this achievement was that when Monza went wild and fans were like just roaring, and the Ferrari garage was full of, ecstatic faces. Raikkonen on the radio, he's congratulated that, okay, Kimi, you have the pole. Well done. His response at having set a world record is, yeah, okay, thanks. That's it. That's it. So, that in a sense was Raikkonen, which actually brings me to a philosophy. And your first question was that, what can we learn from him and what
Yeah,
qualities?
exactly.
The art of not taking success over here. And in doing so, becoming a bit detached, whether
Yeah,
it's in the face of a defeat or it's at the wake of earning a great win. That was Kimi Raikkonen. That's what we're going to miss. You have all the right to celebrate when you win, because when you win, you really win, you know? So you emerge on top of the world. But even then, to not lose your shit, to keep your marbles about you intact in one place, that was Kimi Raikkonen.
And Dave, I'm sure if you look at this the other way, when you lose also, because you are detached, you won't take the loss to your heart also, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So this lack of hyping himself, he was never a product of hype.
Right,
He was a product of high level performance. That's what he
right.
was. And there are other drivers
Yeah.
who are even
So
quicker than.
speaking about hype, I have another question for you. Now in India, I don't know about the scene abroad. I have some friends who are into Formula One. Apart from you, I see a lot of hype around Lewis Hamilton. Now my question to you is, because you're an avid sports lover. I mean Formula One lover, avid. Sorry, is Lewis Hamilton that great, or is it more like a media, social media, you know, a hoopla created around him, so to speak? So that is something that really fascinates me. Is the guy really that good, or is it more hype and less performance?
So purely by numbers, he's a great driver.
Right.
Um, he's he's by far the most consistent driver Formula One has had in the past half a decade, and he's a legend of the sport. 7 world championships, no jokes. Most of which earned at the back of a fast car, even though it was a fast car. Extraordinary performance, because you don't really win that consistently. You have to, as I said at the beginning, put lap after lap, second after second, that high level, high intense level performance. Forget not amidst so much of pressure and rancor around you. But Lewis Hamilton does play to the gallery. He has the art of igniting emotions in fans. He's a brilliant sports person. One thing which I really admire a lot about Lewis Hamilton, and I'm not his biggest fan, you can choose to be a fan of not you can choose not to be a fan of someone while still having a lot of respect for somebody. So I have a lot of respect for Lewis Hamilton. That's never going to change. I never liked him earlier, but what he's achieved in the turbo hybrid, which is the current era of Formula One, is beyond any great article or any sobriquet or any garland of respect. But he his personality, the dynamics of Kimi versus Lewis, these are two different personalities, yin and yang of the sport in a way. He always uses his superstardom to ignite emotions.
Mm.
Sometimes it's to a great cause, and I don't think I mean, it's not him, but he can't be a bit calmer about his successes. It's not that he just, for example, recently there was a debate in which Lewis was riled a bit too much. It was a bit too much on the fans. At Silverstone, he ended up colliding with Verstappen. Hamilton collided with Verstappen, and Verstappen actually, he was lucky to walk out alive on 2 legs. It was a high octane crash. Silverstone is the home race of Hamilton. So he had to put up a show because there's an expectation, and he's been a dauntless fighter at Silverstone. But the way he celebrated at the end of the Grand Prix, which was well within his rights because he's won it, was a bit too much. So there are people. So on your Independence Day in India, you
Yeah.
can be a patriot if you're jumping up and down holding the Indian flag. So your definition of patriotism and your love in front of showing your love in front of your countrymen can be different. Hamilton was all over the place. And if he's cleaning a beach during a summer vacation in Formula One, he doesn't need to put it on social media always. But I think he does it so that others can learn something from him and do that. So he's more outgoing. So possibly why there's a lot of hype about him, to answer questions, because he's more expressive, more out there, not overly expressive all the time, but he's not the guy who will keep quiet. And of course, being a black driver and a
Yeah.
superb athlete, a great athlete of the sport, he used his successes and his name to really root for the cause of ending racism, which was great on his part. Um, but then, yeah, he just I think sometimes he just gets too caught up in those things. And that's precisely why I'm going to miss Raikkonen, because he loves Finland. He served the Finnish army, okay, with the mandatory service, but he's never, wearing a Finland t-shirt. I love Finland. Finland is my
You know,
life, and he will.
Dave, can I draw a small analogy now? Now that I understand your love for Raikkonen, and then there's Lewis Hamilton, it's pretty much like my love for Liverpool in the Premier League versus a large part of people, a large part of the world loving Manchester United. So it's like Manchester United is the go-to team. Wow, we have Manchester United fans. I mean, there are a whole
That's
lot
Lewis
of
Hamilton.
Liverpool supporters also. But the thing is that there's a reason why a person likes Liverpool, because the idea is you will never walk alone. That's what Liverpool stands for. And that's the way, and that's the reason I support them, because they'll truly never walk alone. That's
Yeah.
ingrained in me. So I'm sure that Raikkonen to you is like Liverpool to me, and Lewis Hamilton to other people is like Manchester United to the world. Because
Or
while you're
like
saying all
Lara.
this now, this analogy happened in my head.
Yeah, no, you're right. Or like how Brian Lara is to me, and while Sachin is for the entire world.
Exactly, 100%.
You cannot like Sachin, he's like he's a legend. Like, and one
Yeah,
thing I wanted to on this Kimi podcast on Lewis is that, like, yesterday he came second in the qualifying battle behind Verstappen. He almost got the pole,
you have a race
and
today also.
they have a race today also.
Wow. So,
I have a race today, and I'm trying my level best to get back to Sportskeeda for one final shot, one tribute to Raikkonen, which they have been very kind enough to agree on. So I'm gonna get into it after this. But one quick word on Lewis Hamilton. What warmed me to the man, warmed me up towards him, a change in mindset, is how appreciative is he of other drivers. Like yesterday, uh, like Max Verstappen, who's a young guy who's now one of the front runners of taking Formula One to the great heights. So Verstappen could have issued a public statement urging the fans, because this race is in the Max Verstappen territory, which is Netherlands. He could have urged the fans through a media statement that do not boo Lewis Hamilton, you know, but he did not do that. And yesterday, when he got the pole position and Hamilton got second, he appreciated Max Verstappen. He said the fans are amazing. It was a great drive by Verstappen to take the pole. And I love the fans' electric atmosphere, knowing well that there were some who were booing him. That's what I like about Lewis Hamilton. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, a great literary icon, said the greatness of a man is measured by the fact that how little he's willing to become, despite knowing that
very
he's
well
great.
said. Very well.
That's Lewis Hamilton. But Kimi was the enigma of
Yeah.
not much
So
words.
speaking about
So
Kimi, I want to also understand your love for Alfa Romeo when Kimi was driving the Alfa Romeo.
So Alfa Romeo is the team with which he brings an end to a remarkable career, a remarkably long career. It's the team with which he's achieved not outlandishly brilliant results. In fact, on the contrary, very average results. But even in those average outings, he proved himself as the high school enigma of Formula One. How? 2019, he came fourth at Brazil in an Alfa Romeo, which is clearly an underpowered car. He came fourth, and his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi. So there's a driver who's nicknamed the Italian Jesus. That's Kimi's teammate. Also somebody who looks up to Kimi as an idol. So it's funny to be racing with someone who's always idol worshipped you. So Kimi came fourth in Brazil in a tight contest, something I'll never forget, in an Alfa Romeo. 2020 at Portuguese Grand Prix at a track called Portimao, at the Portimao bound track called Algarve. He came at the end of the first lap, sixth, having started from 16th. So made up 10 places, moved up the grid, demonstrating great, superior driving skills, great control, very precise with his car handling. So you don't make up 10 places in the space of one lap. You don't climb so many ladders in such a small amount of time, but then that's Kimi. So he got voted the driver of the day, and that was amazing. And then during his time at Alfa Romeo, he not only reached his 300th Grand Prix, not the first driver to do so, but he reached the 300 Grand Prix mark, which is a huge number. Now, Fernando Alonso has also done so many races. He completed the overall distance traveled in Formula One, which is equal to taking 2 entire revolutions around the moon.
Oh.
So that's the longest distance ever raced by a Formula One driver. 2 rounds around the moon. So that is just mind-boggling. And the best part about him is that at Monaco last year, when he would mark his 300th Grand Prix, I think it was last year. No, I think it was 2019, something like that. He cancelled the celebrations for his 300th Grand Prix, saying, "I don't want any hype. I don't want." So the team is emotional. They're wanting to wish you. They want to congratulate. Kimi said, "No, I'll just let this pass." So
we've done one round around the moon in this podcast, Dave. We've almost done an hour of speaking on Kimi. So that's been fantastic. Yeah. Thankfully, Zoom doesn't charge for 2 people conversing.
Yeah.
So, any parting words on Kimi Raikkonen, and just tell me how you would miss him and what he meant to the world, and yeah, whatever you want to just end this podcast with.
So I think there will be more drivers, many more drivers who will win more than 21 races and who will score probably one day they will have a double century of podiums. But there'll always be one Kimi Raikkonen, a man who was willing to put himself behind his team and a man who wanted so little in return for having given so much of himself to the sport. So much is easily derived from the fact that he gave 2 decades of his life to the sport. The sport was also kind to give him opportunity, an opportunity that long, an opportunity that lasted so brilliantly long. But what I'll miss Kimi, what I would miss the most about Raikkonen is the fact that he was so cool under pressure. It's really becoming a virtue now in today's high intense pressure deadline driven world. He did lose his cool here and there. It won't be right to say that he was always a product of monk like thinking, but he just never overdid things. He was very economical in expressions, monosyllabic out of the car, a boy who could race when he was in it. And he started and ends his journey being a simpleton, a guy with a beautiful smile, good looks, some of the most amazing sunglass choices, but ends up as a racer in a world which is full of drivers.
Wow. Big words. So, guys, this was the Rangman show where a simpleton on the other side of the screen has spoken about the Iceman. For me, when I see Dave speak about Kimi, there are 2 things which really come out to me. One is the way this guy on the other side of the screen remains unperturbed in pressure situations. And the second thing is the way he does things for people without any iota of expectation. That is what defines Dave, and I think that he takes from Kimi. So it was brilliant chatting with you, Dave. Till we come with another podcast on the Rangman show. Guys, cheers.
It was an honor to do this podcast with you. Really thankful. Really. Thanks for the good words.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.